Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another video. It is March 29th, 7:44 p.m., 2026. So I'm just going to jump right into this. I'm going to go over Tesla here. So, very interesting chart here, and it's very simple. Okay, so going back through all the history of Tesla, if you just mark off every April, okay, you can see that historically, if you were a buyer in April or maybe like a month or two after, it's a monthly chart. So, take that plus or minus rule by, one or two, whatever, it's on the monthly. So, but majority is April. Um, it's actually not a bad time to be a buyer of Tesla. Okay. So you can pull this up on your own chart and just check it out yourself. I remember doing this last year and it did work. Okay. Um, let's see how it's going to go again this year. I'm going, in my opinion, I think it's gonna work again, but we'll see. Time will tell. So just really simple, like first point there on Tesla is historically Aprils are not a bad time to buy Tesla or take a very decent look at it with some bull goggles on. All right. Um, so let me turn off logarithmic really quick and go down to like the daily time frame. All right. So going to the 2023 low, when it bottomed at $100, just pulling a volume profile on it, we can see that the VRVP, like the high, or not the VRVP, the high volume node here in red is at around like 250. Okay. And the, during this bull cycle up for Tesla, like the two big corrections have been, basically about the same percentage down. Okay. The first one was 53%, the other one was 56%. Okay. They weren't really the first one in time was longer than the second one, so kind of take it with a grain of salt. Uh, but as far as percentage down, if it were to do something about the same, it could bring it down to around like $228. All right, 230 bucks, whatever. Around that high volume node. All right. Now, if that doesn't happen, I have this zone here, which is a Fibonacci support zone and a 50%. Right. So, uh, in my opinion, if Tesla is going to continue coming down, I would it would make sense for it to hit this 50% in my opinion, around 300, or maybe like the lower threes, like 320s, something like that. Yeah, we're gonna have to see. I'm not gonna be on April 1st. I'm not gonna just gonna click the freaking buy button. I'm gonna wait, and see how it goes throughout the month. Um, how the days go by, right? Because there's new data every day, whenever a candle prints. So, but I am anticipating a, a nice low or some sort of low to get a good trade on Tesla here in April. And I'm more thinking about it as a swing trade, but we're gonna have to see. Okay, but I just want to put that out there that April is not a bad time to be taking a look at Tesla. It's looking at the EMAs, right? The 21 in blue, or sorry, not the 21, the 9, right? Let me double check. Yeah, the 9, 21 in black, 50 in gray. It's daily downtrend. Okay, so when a low comes in and it starts to cross, these EMAs start to curve up like it has before. That would be a good indication that some sort of low was put in, if it's significant or not. All right, and just really quick too, um, this right here. So zooming in right here, yeah, April is typically, historically going all the way back is closed 6% up, same as May, and then June 10% up. Uh, so if this were to be a swing trade and a nice low were to come in this month in April, it could possibly be a swing into June. right? And then the Psychoanalyzer app, I can't pull it up right now because the app isn't working for some reason. So good thing I took a picture or a screenshot of this before. So there's a 200-day cycle, pretty much, and the FLD is 100. Okay, and this is in a troughing zone. If it's going to trough, we don't know, but it is in a troughing zone. So again, supports the idea of some sort of low coming in this month in April. And this does go up into like about August. All right. I don't know if it's going to be new highs or not. I don't care about that. But yes, the psychoanalyzer is in a troughing area. All right. Um, but again, this Tesla did break under the 100-day uh, FLD here, so it is bearish. Okay, it crossed under. So if this were to bounce, then coming back up to FLD would be resistance. Okay, but you know if it gets to that point, we can see how it looks then. But as of right now, just taking a look, a heavy, nice look at Tesla coming into this month of April. All right. Next thing up here, ES futures. All right, E-mini. So on the daily time frame, um, it broke under this level here at 654. I'm going to put that as a red. All right, that is now resistance. So if it were to come back up, it is resistance now. High volume area here, it is coming into. This right here is a golden pocket. All right. Um, then there's a little level over here, 6166.50, which is like the high from 2025 February. All right, so somewhere around there. I sorry, excuse me. I would expect this area, like the golden pocket, and this 6100, like the mid 6100s, to be a decent area of support. If it is going to come down, it's not that far away, so it looks like it is going to, but we'll see. Um, but if it does, I would expect that to be a nice area of support. And then I have two dates here, which are trough dates. So my base case on ES right now is it does find some sort of low. I don't know if it's going to be an amazing low and it's going to V shape out of here. Don't know about that. Um, but I am expecting some sort of low, uh, tradable low, to come in between the 31st and the 2nd of April. Okay, March 31st and the 2nd of April. All right. Um, it'll look really good to me if price is trading in this golden pocket around this level here in this key date. All right. And then the third, another point here is market cipher down here, the blue momentum waves. It is going to print a second green dot. So for the microcipher community, they're going to know what I'm talking about. It's going to print a second one, and that's called snake eyes because there's two, right? It's like two eyes. They just call it snake eyes, whatever. So that's going to print a second one, and you know when ES prints a daily big green dot, okay, the previous one right here, it did bounce, right? If you front ran it, okay, it did bounce. It did have a bounce into resistance off the EMAs. Okay, so it was a tradable bounce off that green dot print. Okay, the other two over here, right? April 9th of 2025. Well, that got the significant low. Okay, the one prior to that in mid-March, that got a tradable, very nice bounce into EMA resistance. Okay, we can just keep going back here. August of 2024, a significant low, right? Okay, April of 2024, a significant low. Over here, October 2023, a tradable low into EMA resistance. Then it didn't print big green dot in actual, but bull divergence. Whatever. So we can see that I can guarantee you this, it is going to print a big green dot. If it's going to be a significant low or a tradable low, I can't guarantee you that. I don't know. But I can guarantee you that dot will print. And if it's going to be a great success or, it's going to be whatever, a tradable low, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But some sort of nice trade is going to be coming up here soon on the ES. Okay. And then you can combine that with the fact that sentiment is so horrible and everybody's thinking, lower, 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 like um, having a contest of who has the lowest price target. There's one of my buddies says, and it's funny because it is so true. Who knows at the end of the day where it goes to, but I don't know. Sentiment is horrible. So it's interesting that some troughing dates are coming up here soon and some key supports well, I would think they're key support. We're going to have to see if they are. But yeah, yes, very simple here too. Key dates coming close to some nice support. You can also tell from the high volume area over here, and then that market cipher momentum is going to print big green dot here soon. And this is the daily, so yeah, I imagine it's probably going to print within these key dates. It's most likely. All right, so that's enough of ES. It's pretty simple there too. All right, Hood. I like this one. So if Hood could trade into this trend line, I'm going to be aggressive and just buy. Um, I'm just going to buy some Hood. That's what I'm doing. Not financial advice on it. Don't copy me. Okay. Um, take a look at it yourself and all that. Obviously, right? Do your the due diligence. Okay, but I like to trade aggressive um, most of the time. So especially when it comes to something like this, in the gray zone here, it is a Fibonacci support. We have, it's only a two. This trend line has only been tapped. If you want to say once or twice, right? So I'm going to be, taking a gamble, I guess if you want to say, of this trend line holding. But regardless, like Hood's been hammered. Um, if ES is going to get some sort of tradable bounce here, I would expect Hood does too if it hits this trend line. Um, the other thing too is the cycle analyzer. I can't pull it up, which is annoying. I'm pretty sure I did put it in here. Yeah, okay, I did. All right. So, okay, yeah. Hood is also in a chopping zone, right? Um, I wish I could pull it up right now, but I can't. Uh, momentum, cycle momentum might form a bullish divergence, right? Coming into this Fibonacci support zone on the price action chart. Um, so, there's that behind it too, of why I would like to take a shot at Hood, right? In the financial sector in general, JP Morgan is, it, if you put Hood and JP Morgan side by side, they kind of just follow each other, okay? So I don't know what people classify Hood as, but the thing is a finance app. So, and you can put it side by side to JP Morgan. Uh, I was actually pretty interested in JP Morgan as well. Um, Not so much anymore because if I were to take a trade on Hood and JP Morgan, it doesn't really make sense because they follow each other. So you're just adding extra risk when you can just focus on one. So um, if if you don't want to trade Hood, take a look at JP Morgan. It's pretty similar idea here. All right. So that's Hood. And if this does get a bounce in this fib support zone, possibly off this trend line, yeah, for me, I would then take a look at the EMAs and the cycle analyzer and see what's up. But I'm taking a shot being aggressive, trying to find close to a low potentially on Hood. Netflix, one of my favorite stocks, especially long term. Uh, I'm pretty sure I posted about it on my Twitter before, like the higher time frame chart or on a YouTube video before. Um, but here on the daily, Fibonacci support here in blue, right? Going off the March high to the February low. It's respecting that golden pocket right now, right? Um, and we look at the EMAs, it kind of just back tested all of them in golden pocket support, and kind of looks like a bull flag, maybe like a three wave move up. I'm not an Elliott wave guy, but I would think they would classify this as a potential three wave move up, right? um, 1, 2, 3, off of a bull flag. So I do like Netflix here. Um, this is Fibonacci resistance. If you take it from, a Fib resistance thing from the high to the low over here, that is resistance there. And bull flag measured move target is up there, right? You got zero point 0.5 resistance right there at 104. This is 111 to 120. All right, but kind of just simple idea, pattern support here on Netflix. Looking at Market Cipher, money flow is kind of moving up. It's pretty thick in the red still, but it's moving up. Stochastic moving up, and green dot printed on the daily. So let me take a quick look at the weekly. All right, it's trying to hold that nine weekly moving average right there. Yeah, Netflix. I wish the psychoanalyzer app was loading. I'm pretty sure I have a Netflix chart in here somewhere. I'm not sure though. I know it's somewhere in there. Yeah, okay, well, it is what it is. Sorry about that. All right, TILL, Agricultural Strategy ETF. Um, Going on the weekly chart, like I look at this and I'm just like, wow, right? Um, there is some significant potential on this chart. So whatever that means for the market, I don't know. I'm not a macro guy. Don't know much about that stuff. I just look at charts, right? We can see on the weekly, the 9 did cross over the 21, right? And price action is currently holding above the 50 as well. And here in gold is Fibonacci support of the golden pocket and the zero point 0.5. It's also holding that as well. It broke this down trend line here, right? Um, it looks pretty good. I mean, like if this continues to trend upwards, you know, resistance is going to be between like 21 to 22s, right? But if it breaks above that 22 level, 22.58 to be specific, that is a ginormous gap. Like there's no volume there. So it could move very quickly. I'm not trying to be a moon boy on this thing, but like, who knows, right? We saw natural gas commodity move like 100%, whatever, right? Or close to it, a little over it, earlier this year in a few days, a week, whatever that was. Oil freaking went crazy. Um, hey, who knows, right? We're in crazy times, very volatile times. So um, I'm not saying that does that tomorrow if it is going to do that. I'm just saying over time, this thing could be starting a new higher time frame uptrend. So I have it on my eye here. I did buy some, nothing crazy, but I did buy some here on Friday just to get a starter position in on it. And looking on the daily chart, rising daily EMAs above this fib support. If it does come back inside this fib support, I am going to buy some more. Um, but very simple. Not much to talk about here on this. Um, Besides it, it's potentially starting a new higher time frame uptrend here. So just want to put this on people's radars. All right. In this fund, I believe it holds cane, wheat, soybeans, or not cane, sorry, sugar. Um, Something else. I forget. No, just look it up. I couldn't tell you. But the chart looks good. Right. Palladium. So currently it is trading under this daily trend line. Um, no, not good, but it's pre-market, right? So we're gonna have to see how Monday and Tuesday goes. I'm currently in a trade on this on the long, from this trend line. If Monday closes under this, I'm probably just cutting it. Um, because that's the only reason I'm in this is because of this trend line support. So if it starts to break under this, I don't know. I guess it could come deeper. Um, yeah, maybe a broadening channel here long term. No idea. It doesn't look too hot right now looking at it, but simple trade idea that I was in earlier in the week. Um, yeah, just keep it simple. Simple as more. UNG. So this is also interesting too. You go on a logarithmic chart, it is, a straight downtrend, right? But, kind of support here, right? This one here. I'll change the color. An orange. That is some support. And I pulled a cycle on this going from, you know, significant lows to low, right? And I did the bars coming out here are like from the low to the move up. Um, and I have two averages here, right? The first one would be November 2026, and then the other one would be July 2027. Um, yeah, and I've seen some great cycle analysts talk about natural gas and how it is in the beginning part of a bullish phase, right? Like higher time frame bullish phase. So I think that's pretty interesting too. Um, we see here that in January did come in with like a projected cycle low in time. So maybe have this on your radars, natural gas or UNG, um, possibly could have a move up in the next couple months, potentially. Uh, yeah, there's just something that's just in there. Keep an eye on that. All right. Okay. Wheat on the daily. So first things first, market cipher. Money flow is green and pointed up. So is momentum and so is stochastic RSI. Printed in green dot here on Thursday. And just looking at price action now, that in my book is a very simple bull flag. Um, and it potentially broke out here on Friday, right? With rising daily EMAs. The measurement target is around like 25, right? Just go to the weekly really quick. Yeah. So the weekly, the 9 crossed over the 21 already. That's been a few weeks already. But it just recently crossed over the 50 as well. So, potentially here, a new uptrend potentially starting here on wheat. Um, yeah, that's interesting here. Maybe some more consolidation comes in. And just have to watch the daily time frame this week, see what happens. Yeah, simple trade idea there. All right, the dollar DXY, similar to wheat, it printed a green dot here on the daily, rising momentum. I don't have the stochastic on here, but it's probably gonna be pointed up too. Money flows thick in the green. EMAs rising on the daily, and daily bull flag. Right, it broke out of this on Friday. It looks like pre-market here. It's trying to continue, but we're going to have to see how it goes tomorrow during market hours on Monday. Um, yeah, if dollar breaks under the above this 100 level, right, 139 I have here, um, I would think in the 101s, the higher 101s, and ultimately up here 103 to 104 is more of the bigger target. And then if you go to the monthly chart, again, guys, this looks like a monthly bull flag potentially, and you have the monthly green dot is going to confirm by the end of this month, unless dollar just nukes under like 97, 96, which I doubt is going to happen. So it looks like that monthly green dot is going to print on the dollar. So I am bullish dollar, not just short term, but also longer term too, higher time frame. I'm bullish on the dollar. Um, and I'm pretty sure sentiment's pretty crap on the dollar, right? A lot of people have a lot of stuff to say about it. All right, coal, one of my favorite trades. Um, still currently in this. It's still in an uptrend, rising EMAs, right? On the daily and on the weekly, right? And on the weekly chart, it did confirm a green dot. What was that, March 9th? And stochastic, momentum, and money flow are all pointed up on the weekly. It's hitting blue skies. So I don't see much bearishness about that. All right. Going on to the daily time frame, and let me turn on all my stuff. I know it looks crazy, so let me explain this. Um, First, I'm going to go with the blue here. So that's just percentage moves up from high to high in this uptrend, right? And on average, in day and percent up, right? Potentially April 13th, and then that would be a 31.76 just about. So the higher 31s could be a price target, and the time target would be April 13th. All right. There's also this upward channel, so maybe like 29 to 30, right? It's not too far away from that. Okay. Um, and then really quick, market cipher on the bottom here. There's a gray box here. That is resistance. We can see that. Oops. Let me get that back on. Sorry. All right. So the gray box here, the momentum waves on the daily have rejected in this zone. Um, on on moves up on this uptrend up for coal. So I'm keeping an eye on that. I have an alert there. So whenever momentum waves, if they are going to enter this box, uh, I want to know. I want to see what's happening. Where's price at? Where's the time at? Because I do have key dates on this thing. Um, so that's something I'm keeping an eye on. And also the green dots here. Let me pull this up again. And this uptrend. So we can see that when it's uptrending on the daily, yes, there's a lot of red and green dot prints. So it's just like choppy momentum waves. Again, this is also to show you that you don't need tools to trade. Okay, you can just use simple price action patterns, fib supports, EMAs, whatever. You don't need these indicators to trade. Okay, they just show you what's price, you know, what price is doing most likely, right? So I just want to stress that you don't need the indicators to trade, right? They're just there to help you, all right? But just looking at this, there's like a pattern here. So the red dots and green dots, multiples of them, when price is getting up into these higher levels, right, in this upwards channel, or if it can maybe break above. But when it gets to higher prices, market cipher has more choppiness, right? And the first time here, this was one, two, three red dots there until it found a high. All right, and I actually think the high was on this bearish divergence over here. No, there was just a double top there on that. So you could say three or four. And that first one right here, one, two, three, four, five red dots. Okay, one, two, three, four, five again. So maybe you could say 3 to 5 red dots print before a high comes in on coal in this uptrend that it's in since April 2025, right? A year. Actually, what date is that? April 7th. Okay, I'm gonna mark that off on my chart as well. Just a year out, right? Kind of what Gann would do. So let me put that there. A year out, low to high. Let's see what happens April 7th. Um, yeah, so far it's done 2 red dots here. Okay, so maybe 1 to 3 more red dots print before a high comes in. All right, so I'm also keeping an eye on that on Market Cipher, not just a resistance zone on Market Cipher, but those two things. And the daily stochastic is right now at 16. So, on the Market Cipher thing, um, I again, it's an added confluence of maybe some sort of high coming in on coal would be, those 2 Market Cipher points and the daily stochastic coming up towards the top side, right? Um, and if that's happening, I would expect coal is either at the top of this channel or slightly above, right in the 30s. So something to keep an eye on because also looking at the cycle, potentially a topping period here. March 25th through April 2nd, I have this April 7th date I just put on, which, a year ago it made a low, right? Then there's the average from high to high over here. That's April 13th. Okay. Um, and I know I do have something here for coal. Cycle. No, that's Tesla. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. I hope they fix the cycle app soon. because this is pretty annoying. I think I can just search this really quick. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so April 22nd is the projected peak date on the 60-day cycle here on coal. Also, just want to point out, this is hindsight, but it did cross the FLD here um, earlier this month, right? So that is bullish. Okay, so I am bullish on coal going to April, but I'm watching for some slowdown, some sort of peak. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a long-term peak. Okay, from the looks of it, I don't think it's going to be a long-term peak. Um, but there's probably going to be some sort of drawdown. Let's say some EMA support or cycle support, right? Time. Um, so May 5th could be potentially a low, right? Because looking back, the midpoints, the midpoint and the apex of this big cycle, right over here was a low, November 26th, um, September 11th, June 25th. So the next one coming up here is May 5th, and then there's also July. So, if there is going to be a high here in April, um, there could be a drawdown into May, and that could be an opportunity. But time will tell. We're going to see how that looks um, when it comes. Right? But cool, looks great. Uh, Bitcoin. All right. So this is a monthly Bitcoin chart on the logarithmic. All right, and just some simple things here. Um, this is a 45-month cycle. Let me just double check. Yeah, 45-month cycle. I'm sure everybody's seen this. Um, but yeah, November 2011, there was a low. August 2015, that was a low as well. Yeah. Um, May 19th, coming off of a low, right? It was still a great buy point. February 2023, great buy point. It wasn't the exact low, but great buy point. Next one coming up here is November 2026. Also, just really quick, 45 months, 10% of that for is 4.5. So you could say 4 or 5 bars. If you do five, you got September 2022. Okay, so you could do a zone here, right? Of this is what I would do, right? And you know go to like that. If you're bullish Bitcoin long term, but back then you pull the cycle up, you pull up the exact cycle low month, right, which is February, then you pull up 10% of either which way, so to the right and to the left. So you would have a zone between September and August. So September 2022 to August 2023, the midpoint, which is the exact point, is February 2023, right? And you could just like set up a DCA in here or something, right? And if people who did that, amazing freaking higher time frame trade. Okay, so let me delete this. All right, cool. And I did do this over here. So the midpoint here is November 2026. 10% to the left is June 2026. And then 10% to the right is April 2027. All right. So possibly another amazing buy point or buy time period of longer term for Bitcoin. All right. Then in red, or just, if you entered a trade on the black and sold on the red, you would be green. All right. Every time so far. It's not many times, but you do with what you got here on the data. All right. The next start points are going to be October 2028. And again, you can do 10% either which way, right? So 45, do like 5 bars, boom, boom, got the high, literally coming off of the high. All right, so if you do 5 bars over here, March 2029, May 2028, and then October 2028. All right, so yeah, very simple chart here. All right, then the last thing, or just 2 more things, but they're kind of in one. So the EMAs, right? I have lines, vertical lines here marked in blue. So the first one here is when the blue, the 9 EMA crossed over the 21 in black, right? And when it crossed over, that formed a low, right? Not exactly, it was the month, the month when it was crossing, made the low. That was January 2015. And when it confirmed cross, right, February, that was a good buy. All right, second point, second time over here, January 2019, it confirmed, like it crossed over. And as that period when it was crossing over formed a low, December 2018. So another great buy point. Okay, July 2022, a great buy point. Yes, it went lower, but it did not stay lower for long on the monthly chart, right? Like this was an amazing buy zone for Bitcoin. So again, another great buy point there. And again, now, okay, the monthly closes in 2 days. It looks like the 9 is going to cross over the black, the 21 here into April. And if it does, yeah, Bitcoin could have a push down. But in reality, it looks like it's a good buy point in time again. Um, I bought a decent chunk of BTC this month, so I put my money where my mouth is there. I would like to buy more, right? If it comes lower, there's a 382 support here of the 2019 low at $50,151, right? Um, and also this buy point in time over here, right? Between, oops, sorry, my mouse is all over the place. June 26th, November 26th, April 27th. Um, Yeah, I'm a young guy, so I have time on my hands, and I like Bitcoin. I am bullish on it long term. Um, so if this is going to be another bull cycle eventually going for Bitcoin going into the end of this decade, um, if it hits new highs, I'm in the camp that it hits in the 200s. But time will tell. Who knows? Doesn't matter. What matters is the data shows here that Bitcoin is in a nice buying period, and it's going to continue to go into a nice buying period here, all right, throughout this year. So, yeah, okay, that's Bitcoin on that chart. All right, daily of Bitcoin, it's in Fibonacci support here in gray. There's a range between 75 and 60s to the lower 60s, right? So until that breaks either which way, it's range bound. Okay. Um, I have a key date here from the square of 9. Let me hide all this. April 8th, and then May 5th. So right now it's fine to support on this square 9 level. If you look at this line here, it was resistance, 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 support, resistance, resistance, support, support. Then it broke down, resistance, and now it's support again. So significant area here for Bitcoin. Yeah, if it breaks under that, there's like 63s and the lower 60s. So yeah, just choppy on Bitcoin, range bound. So proving otherwise. Weekly chart, still holding above this scan level here, right? This trend line coming up all the way across, still above that. So that's coming in at like 63s. Right, there's a lot of confidence for 63K. It's a pretty important level there if Bitcoin comes down to test it, right? Um, if it breaks under 63K a weekly close, it's probably going to come into the 50s. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. VIX, I went over this in my last video. It's being pretty resilient. So it still hasn't broken above the high of March 9th, which was a high period. And it was, right? There was a move down from there. Uh, just wasn't significant. And it hasn't really, continued. Market Cipher is again coming up into some resistance on the momentum waves, right? When it gets to like the higher 70s or above that, expect some pretty decent resistance coming in for the VIX, right? So if this does continue to trend up, another high point on the cycles would be between April 2nd and April 10th, right? Maybe a broadening pattern here. Yeah, if this moves up, it could be ugly. But take it for what it is. It's right in front of us. So yeah, that's the VIX. Uh, don't really think there's much else for me to talk about. Yeah, I think that's all. Thank you guys. I know it was a long one. Um, oh, one thing. Sorry. After this, I'll be done. I promise. Um, so Lars shared a Substack today, and here we are. So again, remember at the beginning of the video, ES potentially coming into some sort of bounce here soon. So bottoming cycles potentially here. S&P 500 financials, JP Morgan. That would also help out the ES, right? Materials, palladium, um, Apple's on there, and then some peaking ones: oil futures, S&P, soybean, nat gas, S&P energy. Yeah. So something interesting, some added confluence. I like seeing that because I was already thinking ES potentially has the bounce soon, and I saw that, and I was like, awesome. That's nice to see, right? um, so yeah, hopefully Kramer saves us too. So peace out, guys. Thank you for tuning in. See you in the next one.